here's Brody Brazil.
You know, I realize here on this YouTube channel, I talk a lot about the different leagues and potential cities for professional sports expansion. But the one thing I haven't necessarily done yet, which we'll do in this video, is take a look at the biggest picture possible, as in all of the main 4 pro sports leagues in North America, to try and figure out which one, which business, which league actually might be the next to expand. Because I truly believe that within the next maybe 3 to 6 to 9 months, we will hear from one of these leagues that, in fact, they are officially moving forward with expansion. I've got some frontrunners. I think I also know the league that is least likely to expand here out of these main 4, but we'll get to all of that in this video. The first thing we need to understand is, why is expansion important? Obviously, you're growing your game, but you're growing your business. You're adding a team or 2 or several, and with that, it's more merchandise, it's bigger TV deals, it's more revenue, it's more players in the league, it's more of everything. It's also fan engagement in new regions. Like, maybe you're revisiting a city that league has been to before, or maybe you're going to a brand new city for the very first time. You're starting something fresh, you're growing your business, not only nationally and in terms of adding a team, but you're also engaging a region like you've never done before. You get a honeymoon period in those new markets, right? It's exciting to have the new merchandise. And even before the team plays its very first game, you're already selling hats and jerseys and shirts and probably season tickets and all of that. The most important thing, though, I mean, those are all things for us, the fans and people who observe media and sports and all that. But the most important thing for the leagues and team owners are expansion fees. And right now is the time to capitalize. If you look at the valuation of all these teams within the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, they've all relatively gone up at a pretty amazing pace. I would say baseball has the least amazing pace of these main 4, but football has shot through the roof. Valuation of basketball teams has gone through the roof. Even hockey catching up to baseball pretty much. So with the valuations going up, well, expansion fees also go up. So an expansion team will pay that fee to the league. It'll be spread out amongst all the other teams. And so all the other franchises benefit from expansion fees. That's the real reason all of this is being talked about, but all of this other stuff does exist too. So let's take a look league by league here. We'll begin with the NFL. Currently at 32 teams, 2 conferences, 8 divisions. They last expanded in 2002. Like, you realize when I say 2002, to some of us, it feels like just yesterday because I was just finishing college and that didn't feel like long ago, but that's more than 20 years ago at this point. In fact, it's getting pretty close to 25 years ago. And before Houston was added in 2002, you have to go back to 1995, 7 years earlier, when Jacksonville and Carolina were added to the NFL. So it has been a while. The NFL has not added a team recently. They've moved a couple teams lately, and unfortunately, but they haven't added a team in a while. What are their objectives? Well, I think a business this big and going and growing as fast as it is, they're not even trying to grow within the United States. I think the NFL in their next move, they're going to try and grow globally. Is that Europe? Because there's already been that connection made with some games played overseas. Is it over there with a team or maybe 2? And I realize there are some logistical challenges and there are some difficulties with that, but there's also a lot of money to be made if you put your first team in London or Germany or wherever. There's also the thought of Mexico City. Now, there's altitude there, but there's also already a stadium there. You get to kind of stay in a similar time zone as the rest of the U.S. for television purposes. So I believe in my instinct here, you might do 2 teams to get to 34. You might put one in Europe. You might put one in Mexico City. But again, all of this to grow the NFL globally. I know there could be potential cities named in the United States, but I don't think any of them are frontrunners compared to somewhere in Europe and somewhere in Mexico. In terms of the outlook of all of this happening for the NFL, yeah, they're a highly stable league right now. They've got their TV deals in line. I do think it's likely time for them to add and potentially grow outside the United States. And I'm not suggesting that they're reaching a cap here of growth in the United States. Like, there is no upper limit for this. It's just that they're looking at other places. They're so big and they're moving so fast, they think they can exponentially grow outside of North America, or at least the United States. Okay, let's get to the NBA. 30 teams right now, 2 conferences, 6 divisions. They also last expanded in the early 2000s. 2004, they went back to Charlotte, right? They brought the Bobcats back to where the Hornets used to be. But before that, it was 1995 when they added the 2 Canadian teams. Toronto obviously still has the Raptors, and the Vancouver Grizzlies obviously have since relocated to Memphis. And what an unfortunate situation. Every time I visit Vancouver, I just can't figure out why that didn't work. I should do some more research into the backstory because I was a lot younger then and I wasn't paying attention as much. But what exactly happened to the Vancouver Grizzlies? Why exactly didn't that work? Here in 2025, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But that was 30 years ago when the Canadian teams were added. It was 21 years ago that the NBA last expanded to Charlotte. So again, in terms of timing, right? Like football hasn't done this in a while. Hockey has. Hockey's really the only one that's added in recent years. More on the NHL in a second. But it's been a while for basketball. Their objectives look like this. The TV rights are locked in. It's like a $76 billion deal over the next 11 years. They're locked in with Amazon and NBC Universal, and I'm trying to remember the last partner, but they are all set to go. They also have a CBA, the collective bargaining agreement with the players, locked in through the 2030 season. So they're not expecting any work stoppages right around the corner, any of that coming anytime soon. And the outlook on this is almost immediate for me. And this is why I think basketball is one of the front runners to expand sooner than later, because you already know the 2 cities that make the most sense for the NBA, and each of those cities could be ready tomorrow. Because Seattle has Climate Pledge Arena. It's the old Key Arena. It's where the Sonics used to play. It's the building the Sonics couldn't get renovated to stay in Seattle. Well, Seattle has since brought in an NHL team, and they have since renovated that awesome building in a perfect location. I was just there last summer, and I revisited, like, what happened here? How did this go wrong? This is so perfect. Anyway, Seattle could be ready literally tomorrow. They've got the building. They've got the town ready to go. There's Sonics jerseys and gear being worn still to this day. They're ready to go in Seattle. And Las Vegas, although they might talk about building a brand new NBA arena, which blows my mind, right? Like Las Vegas would be adding Allegiant Stadium, maybe or maybe not this baseball stadium that the A's are trying to build. You also have T-Mobile Arena, which opened up in 2017, and you want to add a 4th venue? Like, none of these teams sharing venues? That would blow my mind if an NBA team built its own building in Las Vegas. They also have the Thomas and Mack Center. They also have the Michelob Ultra Center, where the Aces play. So they're adding another arena. But whatever, the NBA team could start tomorrow and play at T-Mobile Arena, where the Golden Knights play. So that could be borrowed and shared for the temporary time being if they ultimately do. But the point is, the NBA could be like, we're ready to have a team, probably not next year at this point. That's way too late. But in 2 seasons from right now, they could easily have NBA teams in both of those markets ready to go. So all that being established, I think the NBA is pretty prime for this opportunity. They've got a lot going for them right now. On the flip side, this is a league that I don't think is ready to expand right around the corner. Major League Baseball, 30 teams, 2 leagues, 6 divisions. They last expanded in the 90s. It's been the longest of all these 4 main pro sports leagues. Baseball was the last to do it. In 97, they added the Diamondbacks and the Devil Rays, the Tampa Bay Rays. And then before that, it was 1992 when they added the Rockies and the Florida Marlins. So the Florida teams got in, Arizona, Colorado got in the 90s, but the most recent expansion is 97. Yeah, we're talking like almost 30 years ago. So it's been a while for baseball. Their objectives would be, I think, if they do expand, and they had been talking feverishly about expansion when the A's and Rays, and I say were unsettled, like still are unsettled with their stadium situations, but when those 2 teams get settled, then we expand. Well, they were talking about that 10 years ago. Those 2 teams are still not settled. And now I don't think expansion is at all a priority of Major League Baseball like it once was. It still might be important, but the actual possibility and opportunity to do it, they don't seem as likely right here, right now. The outlook for me is not great. You've got instability in the regional and national television deals. That's a big part of this, right? Like, it's guaranteed money, but it's not as guaranteed anymore because ESPN just backed out of the final 3 years of their contract after 2025. You've got a lot of teams reorchestrating their regional television deals. There's a lot of question with the TV money. You also have a CBA that's bound to expire after the 2026 season. A lot of insiders have said it is likely that Major League Baseball is going to have a work stoppage, whether it's a strike or a lockout or some combination of both, after the 2026 season. That's not good if you're planning for expansion in, say, 2027 or 2028 to have that work stoppage as part of all of this. So I think baseball is the least likely, to be honest. Okay, on to the NHL, which already has among the most teams of any pro sports league in North America at 32, and they just got to 32. 2 conferences, 4 divisions. They last expanded 4 years ago. The Seattle Kraken were added, and then in 2017, the Las Vegas Golden Knights were added. So the NHL, of all the main leagues of the 4, like they've done it just within a few years. All the other leagues are talking 20 plus years since they've done it. But the NHL is gaining steam. It's gaining momentum. Again, I talked about the team valuations. The bigger the valuations are, the more the league is worth, the more expansion fees are worth. This is the time to strike. And that's why you're kind of hearing all of these leagues simultaneously right now talking about expansion to some certain degree. For the NHL, the objective has always been to grow the game. And I think you're hearing those talks right now in markets that are non-traditional hockey markets. Houston, Atlanta. I mean, they've already been in Atlanta, but even going back to Phoenix, a non-traditional hockey market, what does that mean? A place where it doesn't snow, where ice isn't created overnight in somebody's backyard rink, where people don't grow up necessarily learning to skate, learning to play the game of hockey, but they want to grow the game in these non-traditional markets a little farther south in North America. And revenue is very likely in these non-traditional markets. They can gain new exposure. They can get new fans. I don't think the NHL really needs to gain more fans in Canada. I say that respectfully. North of the border, like hockey is the thing. Actually, fun fact, lacrosse is Canada's national sport, but I digress. If you want to unofficially look at it, hockey is Canada's official sport. And so I think the league is looking at it not from a sense, and I know people will say Quebec City, and I totally understand maybe even the possibility of adding a second team in Toronto, but how would that really go? Are people going to jump ship on the Leafs? And you've got the Marlies up there too, and you have to have a second building, I suppose? It's just all very difficult and complex. I think the NHL has always looked at these non-traditional markets as pretty much the only option of where they're going to go and grow the game. The outlook for me is this. Like the NHL's talking about this, and it has come back on the front burner with Houston, and obviously the group in Atlanta is very excited to do this, and I still hope Phoenix gets a second shot at it because they didn't deserve to lose their team in the first place, but the NHL doesn't right now, like here in 2025. In my opinion, they don't need to do this, but they're also at a point where they likely could. It's almost like, when you buy something that you just kind of want, you don't need it, but you want it. That's kind of where the NHL is at for me with this. They could expand. They'll be fine. It's not going to dilute the talent pool. It's not going to hurt business. It's going to help business and it's going to grow, but they don't necessarily need to do this. I feel like the NBA right now are kind of more in the need situation, and it's just so perfect. It makes so much sense. It makes enough sense for the NHL. I just don't think it's something like mandatory to do. So to go across the leagues here, just to recap, NFL is a monster, is a beast. They're probably going to do it. They're probably going to go over the pond. They're probably going to go south of the border to Mexico. Baseball, probably the least out of these 4, least likely. They probably shouldn't do this right now. It would seem almost irresponsible. Hockey could, but they don't have to. And I think basketball, I think basketball is the most primed to do this. If I'm being honest, I think basketball is the first. If I'm just making a prediction here of these 4, if I have to answer this question, I think the NBA is expanding next, and I think they might even announce that expansion within the next 6 months to 12 calendar months. I really do. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Also, while you're down there, thumbs up on this video. That'll greatly help me, this video, and this channel. And one more thing, if you would, go down there and hit that subscribe button. That way I can definitely see you back here on the channel next time.